our next guest, Ayamani, which is an interesting hybrid. Hi, look at here with us. But before we're gonna do some deep sea diving and some deep dives into climate change. But before we do any intense swimming, we need to do a bit of a workout. So let's all get up and do some exercise. Follow along because Animal Crossing actually has a pretty decent exercise routine. And yeah, bend, do some bends. I'm actually following along too, even though I'm planted on the floor.
Yep.
Stretch.
It's time after 6 hours of streaming. It's time to do some stretches.
It's time to do some get some blood moving. If you've been sitting down on a slowly sinking beanbag like I have been.
Ayamani, what do you think of your character with the beautiful hat and the flower?
It's great.
It's awesome.
It's great.
Yeah.
Aya and Amani are like tuning in from Sri Lanka and the Maldives today, which is incredible and also, shows the power there is in doing a digital festival on a virtual space like Animal Crossing. Is that you can have people join from anywhere. We had Tanisha coming in from Denver earlier this morning, and now Ayamani is here too. And who knows who else will show up. We had Silka, who came from a whole other planet. Who's somewhere here still. Silka's hanging out.
Fun to be here.
Yeah.
Such a good idea to do this on this festival on Animal Crossing.
Yep. It started off a silly idea, and now here we are. Oh, man, this is a workout. I'm doing it like bent. Yeah. Alright. How are people feeling? Have we had the blood
Great.
pumping?
Stretched.
Stretch. We're back to the dancing emote. Sometimes if you go inside rest services, you will find Isabel and Tom Nook. We should check in with them at some point afterwards. Whoa. Well warmed up. Yay! Shall we go diving?
Let's do
So
it.
how does it work?
Diving.
How do you do this?
Just watch.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I want to try something I haven't tried before the diving. There's apparently a way to do this. It's fun.
So we're in a towel, right?
we're in
wearing
a
a
towel.
Yeah.
And
I was
we're
trying to
gonna
do a
get
barrel roll.
into our wetsuit. Here we go. And then jump. No, wait.
You need to put your wand away. I don't think it worked. Yeah.
And
Is that a flower?
jump. Whee!
Yay!
With the flower?
Well,
The
you
flower
have
was
like a
my
whole
wand.
inventory.
What shall we take? What do you take with you to the sea?
Anything. Oh, I can't die for anything. I'll run out of space.
Have some snorkels?
Wait, hang on. I'm gonna like
I
just
have
head
a
up and empty my
snorkel.
pockets a little bit. We do it. There are snorkels. I don't think you brought one with you. You came in wearing.
I did bring my snorkel. Let me go back to shore and get my snorkel.
I'm just gonna put things down so I have some space. Oh no, we lost someone. Hopefully we haven't lost you. We might have gotten kicked out of the island, but we'll check.
Oh.
But
What do you mean you
Aya,
lost someone?
Yeah. Can you?
Aya, can you introduce yourself? So
Yeah,
Yes,
introduce
sure.
yourself, Aya and Amani.
Okay. I'm Aya Naseem. I'm a marine biologist and I'm a vice chair of the Maldives Coral Institute.
What is that? What does that
Amani's
entail?
sister. Sorry.
What does that entail? Being the vice chair.
So at the moment, so the Maldives Coral Institute, actually we work with science and community and policy, and our main goal is to try and stop coral reefs from going extinct.
Yeah.
So we've been doing, we're just a year old, and we've been doing some foundational pieces of research as well, so that we can use that to direct what we're going to be doing in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And also we've been doing some like advocacy with we had a choral festival at the beginning of the year in February.
A
where Amani,
choral festival.
yeah, it was a choral festival, so it was art and music and discussions about coral reefs and about sustainable development that protects our reefs, and people from the government and just anyone who's interested, like students and everyone came and took part in it. It was on an island here called Callisto. It was really fun.
Wow.
Amani came down for that too from Sri Lanka, and she did a lot of work to help out.
Oh, very cool. Amani, how are you involved with all of this? Like, we know you
Yeah,
from
so
the games world.
yeah, I've been helping out with the festival, and then I've been helping out a bit doing different things for Aya, like with the events and stuff.
Mm.
They also organize some, science talks, um, like in presenting research, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of NGOs in Maldives, and they are all kind of coming together to try and talk about what needs to be done,
Mm-hmm.
because there's, it's pretty urgent what's happening with the corals right now, and we have like 10 years to turn things around, hopefully.
Ooh, yeah. Could you talk us through tell us more about that?
Aya?
Yeah. So Maldives is completely dependent on coral reefs. We're built on them and we're built by them.
Right.
So given the current what's happening with the climate at the moment, coral reefs are going to be one of the first to go if we continue down this path.
Right.
So at the moment, all countries in the world are supposed to be deciding how much, what the contribution, the carbon emissions they'll be, how they're going to be cutting it down, and we need it to be cut down a lot within the next 10 years, or coral reefs we could be losing all of them by within 40 to 50 years.
Oh, wow. That's not very long at all.
No, not at all. So we need all governments to up their game and just commit.
Yeah, people, when people talk about like the effects of climate change, one thing that often comes up is climate refugees, and talking about places like, I think the Maldives have been brought up sometimes, that might be the first to go if climate change isn't resolved anytime soon, and how that would affect things like migration, people having to move, but the current climate not being so migrant friendly or refugee friendly. Like, the environment intersects with all of that.
Yeah, there's already climate refugees, right?
Yeah.
There's already people who are displaced because of the changing climate.
Yeah, exactly. And we are one of the lowest lying countries in the world. On average, we're just 1.5 meters above sea level. So
there was some negotiations with Australia. I'm not sure whether it was like what happened with that, but there was some talks about getting space in different country or something like that.
Oh, yeah, but like refugee numbers coming to Australia.
No, as in if we have to relocate all our people, where would we go to? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how's the discussion about that been like in the Maldives itself? Like, I'd imagine people are fairly concerned about it. Or are they? I'm making assumptions.
Not really on a day-to-day basis, but these are, I think what we want to focus on more is actually not having to move and not having to.
Right. Yeah. Like, if you wanna stay home, and you want the option to have to stay home if you want to.
Exactly. So we don't. We want to prevent being submerged. So that's what we're working towards at the moment.
Right. And how has the effort been? I guess because I'm thinking about some places where some places are more involved with climate change and making things better around that front, whereas some other places are almost like in denial, like, oh, that's not a problem. It's not really a problem. It's not going to be a problem for us.
We can't exactly think like that because it's just in the back of everyone's head, right?
Yeah.
Like we're standing on these coral islands. It's just like the foundation,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's people are not talking about it all the time, but it's always there,
Right. Like it's not like a thing where some places they deny it's a reality. It's like
No, you
people
can't
are-
deny it.
We can't deny it, and we can see. I mean, as a lot of the places in the world, that we can see the changes that are happening already. Like so much of our corals have died because of ocean warming events that have been just getting more and more frequent, like in the last couple of decades, and we can see that so much of our corals have died, which makes the islands erode, and it's just like it's undeniable, really.
What is an
You know,
ocean
okay,
warming
so-
event like? Is the ocean warming like constant, or does it have events and waves of warming?
Yeah, so there's El Nino ocean, warming events where the ocean currents are traveling around, and they travel around on convection, like currents, right? And then it's driven by salinity and temperature, right? So,
what is
so
that
when
like if you could elaborate further?
so they will move the warm water from the tropics will move in a current towards the pole, and then it will get denser, and it's getting less saline the more the ice caps are melting, and then it sinks, and then it comes back to more slowly towards the equator and the warmer areas, and then it'll keep going because of climate change. These currents will get slow. They're already getting slower, and which creates more stagnant areas of more carbon and higher temperature areas, right? So when we have these warmer waters staying around our areas for longer periods, the corals get stressed, and then they bleach, and the bleaching is when the corals lose their symbiotic relationship with the algae that live in them, which is xanthalae, and so they die eventually. And other things that will happen from this is the ocean becomes more acidic. It's already, since pre-industrial times, it's 30 times more acidic than it was before.
Right.
30% more, yeah. And so
Is that
this
mainly from the weather effects you've discussed, or is there also things like there's been like occasional oil spills that have deeply affected coral reefs? That human intervention?
Yeah, I mean,
The conch.
well, these oil spills will definitely be more directly affecting things, coral reefs and other marine animals.
Yeah.
But I mean, most of this climate things are this has happened after the Industrial Revolution, so it is human driven, really. Yeah.
And when the ocean gets acidic, the corals can't make their shells, right?
Right.
The corals can't grow their skeletons, and I mean they can dissolve, and they'll be thinner and more brittle, and they won't have much chance to survive.
So what are some actions regular people can take if they, want to help with coral reefs and climate change? Because this is also this kind of discussion around oh, how much can the individual do when a lot of it is corporations taking up all the energy and all the power and driving a lot of this climate change, but the pressure seems to be on like individuals to change their habits. Like, how do you see that balance playing out?
Yeah. Well, personally, I think that they I think that the big corporations are going to stop, and people need to educate themselves and then put pressure on that government and people to make these big changes happen as well. So and it has to be a concerted effort, like all of from across the globe, really, to make this. This is everyone's problem now.
Right. And how has there been like uh enough, I guess, international cooperation? Because you mentioned earlier something about there being a potential agreement with Australia, although that's been up in the air. And you meant like the work you're doing with advocacy. How has the international engagement been?
We work a lot with the international community, and so I don't know if you've heard about the protecting 30 by 30, 30% of the oceans by 2030.
Oh no! Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's a really big like worldwide campaign. There's quite a few initiatives actually working towards that goal. So we are part of this Rise Up campaign, and We Are One Ocean as well. So it's to protect 30% of all oceans. So the governments will have to decide to protect 30% of their own ocean, because there's the high seas where there's no country's jurisdiction there either. So So Maldives has last year signed on to do marine spatial planning with the Blue Prosperity Coalition, they're called.
Okay. Marine spatial planning.
Yeah, marine spatial planning. So it's like land use planning, but it's marine spatial planning. So you use spatial information about natural resources and then how humans use them, and find out the best way to manage the spaces like this. So it'll include like zoning, which will have like things that diving and fishing and things like that. And then it'll also include marine protected areas, which are completely no-take zones, like fully protected areas. So I'm really excited about that, and I think we're really headed towards the right direction in that now, like in Maldives as well. And
so I was thinking about something that one of the professors in Aya's organization said. He said in his talk, and he was saying, what if like a third of the forest just disappeared over a summer?
Right.
You've had
happening with the coral reefs.
And that has happened with the coral reefs already.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So and in 1998, and then with those coral bleaching events, that's what happens.
Right. Is it like happening? It's happening like more rapidly.
Like in Australia, you've had the fires, right? That's also because of climate change as well, partly, right?
Yeah. So it's a parallel, right? Like the fires and the bleaching. One reason that we invited you onto Animal Crossing is because you can find corals here, and I was wondering, are they even real, these corals? Like,
all the deep sea creatures.
This
like,
sea
I've been
pineapple.
destroying things in the.
What sea pineapple?
Yeah, this sea pineapple that I'm holding out on this stream. Are sea pineapples real?
Yeah, it is. It's a sea squirt. It's an Ascidian.
Sea squirt.
Oh
wow.
And
I mean, I found a sea urchin.
What is it? What is it? What does it do?
You
catch it.
You can catch it and you can donate it to a museum.
And this gigas giant clam. Yeah, you
I mean, like,
made it to the aquarium.
yeah, what are the ethics around aquariums? Because I know that can get pretty controversial. Also, Milo and Scout, your cousins in LA, say hello.
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
And Amarasu is
Oh,
very
hi,
Hi,
fascinated by
Milo
them.
and Scout.
Hello.
Hi.
They came
Thanks
in
for
earlier
joining.
looking for you. But yeah, like what are the ethics around like collecting creatures like we are doing to donate to an aquarium?
Well, I guess it depends on. Personally, I just want them to stay in the ocean, really. But I think there's a lot of importance in studying these as well. So aquariums are important in this in that way.
Yeah.
And also like for awareness as well. I guess it's for people to start to care about these things more. It's kind of important for them to see them, and also, I mean, there could maybe be a better way to do it. Yeah, we could use games or technology maybe to do that instead of actually pulling them out of the ocean.
Yeah,
Right.
if everyone could see the acorn barnacle. Is that real as well?
Yeah.
Is it?
They're all real. They're all real. Like this is
Yeah.
animal here.
Yeah, the acorn barnacle is also real. Yeah, I think it seems like all the animals that are on Animal Crossing are pretty. I mean, it's real and it also kind of comes from.
I mean, what I have seen, like, because there's like a wide array of bugs and fishes, and the undersea creatures are relatively new. But people have been collecting like pictures and information about the real life versions of them. And something like, oh, I can tell this is such and such bug because I saw it on Animal Crossing. So it's become kind of an educational outlet. And in the game, Blathers, our museum curator, you can bring him any of the bugs or fish or creatures or dinosaur fossils you find,
Nice.
and he will happily talk to you about them.
Oh,
Great.
Maybe
The
I
bugs
should
freak
ask.
him out a bit, and I always feel bad asking him to talk to me about bugs. He's like, they're so weird, but okay, here's some facts. But
I'm gonna ask Blathers what he has to say about the acorn barnacle.
oh yeah.
Right.
So you get
See
to
what
see.
he says.
What got you interested in marine biology?
Well, I've always been interested in it since I went for my first snorkel when I was 5. It was like, you know, and that was pre.
Wow. Is that like common? Is it's like one of those things where everyone in Maldives learns it as a kid.
Not
Snorkeling.
really. No.
Not
I don't-
really.
No,
I mean,
that's surprising, right? Because there's so much sea.
Yeah,
Like it's
really
there.
surprising. It's surprising how many people have never seen the reef on, on the islands and things. It's really sad. But now there's been more initiatives where, like, kids are being taken out to look at the reef and to learn more about it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually at that festival we had some dive company and an NGO, and they came and they were talking to the kids about the different fishes that are around in the reef, and there's some people who came from the island school. Some kids came from the island school.
Island school?
Just the island school.
What's that?
The school that was on the island.
Oh yeah.
That
Oh,
the
like
festival
it's
was
an
on.
actual, there's a regular school on the island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like there's a thing called the island school that I
Yeah.
was like, ooh, what's this? That is this magical place. Is diving and coral reefs is that accessible to people in Maldives? Because I feel like in some places this perception of it being like, oh, a rich people endeavor.
It is like okay, I think it started with the tourists, the diving things, but it's spread more now to just there's diving schools on the islands and in villages, and so it's more accessible for people to do that. And I think a lot of the schools kind of survive on tourism money, and so that's all connected still.
Yeah.
So it is like, yeah, it's rich tourists.
But it's getting better. Like there's a lot more initiatives now to try and get more locals to get get certified and get have the opportunity to do that. So
Right. What's been like the cultural relationship between the Maldives and coral reefs? Like, has there been kind of indigenous stories based around coral reefs?
we
I think when I was a kid, I thought we were made of coral. I think somebody
Aw.
told me that we were made of coral. Yeah.
I mean, we might be. Is there like any scientific basis to that? So silica just
I
tells
just
us
thought
about
I was
being
made of coral.
stars.
I guess
Well,
we're
our
made of
bones-
carbon.
yeah, carbon, our bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
I
do
mean,
have
we
the
did
same
evolve
material.
from sea creatures, so
That's
Yeah,
true.
Yeah. So Maldives has like sea creature monsters, you know,
Yeah.
things that live in the woods, things that come out of the sea.
Yeah,
We have,
you told
of
me
course-
that there was like a really, really, really deep part of the sea between two islands that is sort of like scary to swim over because it is so deep.
ooh.
Yeah, there are these channels, and somebody was getting dragged out of a channel the other day, and
What?
I was out there.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, our islands are really close together, but sometimes, like if you, and we have ring reefs around each one usually, right?
Ring reef.
Yeah, a ring going around the island. I mean, sometimes a few islands will share the same reef, but
Yep.
like our islands, we don't have a continental shelf like a bigger island or a bigger or or countries will usually have.
Yep.
So we just like come straight out of the ocean, like volcano style. So
Where coral reefs are just on top of these mountains, right?
mounds, yeah. So,
So wait, the Maldives is on coral, but it's also on a volcano.
On mountains.
I mean, we've moved across volcanic hotspots, and we're not and it's like submerged, and then the islands have stayed. You know, the rings around it have stayed. So we have these atolls that have reefs around them, and then we have islands within them that have their own reefs around them.
Oh wow.
So it means that in between, there's really deep channels where the islands may be not so far. You can like see them right there, but it could be really deep in between.
So when the
That's
tide
fun.
comes in and goes out, the current in between in those channels are really strong.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I have a phobia of deep water, like water deeper than I am tall. Although I find the diving game here pretty relaxing, but the thought of like being caught up in a channel.
Can you go to the edge? Like, can you actually go under at the edge, or can you
No.
dive under in this game?
Only
The net
sort
is
of.
like your hard limit.
Yeah.
Harry Mergage, aka Silica, wants to know if there are different climates or biomes in the ocean like there are on land.
If there are different,
Like
sorry?
biomes in the ocean.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the coral reef. Definitely, there's like the deep sea areas and coral reefs, and within coral reefs there'll be different areas as well. So the biome. So there'll be the open ocean, which will have its own like biome. There'll be like the benthics, where it'll be the bottom of the sea.
Yeah.
And then there'll be like the abyss, and
The abyss.
The abyss. That's the technical name for that biome. Is just abyss.
that's where the abyssal. It's called the abyssal zone, I guess.
Wow.
So that's where you're fishing from at the moment, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
The abyss. I mean, it's a island, but we don't know how deep it is. The abyss. That
The
is-
abyss.
I mean, you can go fishing as well, and some of the creatures you pull out of nowhere. It's just a bit like you get I
I've
can't
got a-
pronounce it. The ancient fish, Seacaland, Seosope.
Which
Like
fish?
the
Oh.
oldest fish.
Mm.
I mean,
So in Maldives, there are like names for all different types of reef type of areas.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's other names?
So there's Vilu and Tila and different things like that, right?
So yeah, depending on like the depth, sometimes it'll be a different name. Depending on like what's at the bottom, it could have a different name, and the shapes and everything.
And are the names particularly meaningful?
Some of them are descriptive, and some of them are just names that you'd know.
It's useful because, like, all the people who live off the reef, they have to talk about, okay, go over to that pillar over there, or
Yeah, that.
like
Yeah,
different populations of fish that live in different places and stuff like that. People know
also,
where to find stuff.
Yeah.
And also for navigation, because we have so many reefs that are just popping up, and sometimes you need to know where they are so you don't, you don't get beached on them.
Right.
Yeah. So like before there were maps of this area, like a Maldivian captain who used to have to go on the ships with anyone who was passing through, because the reefs are like a net, right? They go across almost right across that part of the Indian Ocean. So there's like lots of shipwrecks, really old ones.
Right.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be one of the reasons why we were not like properly colonized as well, because it was so hard for ships to enter without.
Yeah, you're protected by that ring.
Yeah, literally also protected by corals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like our defense system.
That is actually incredible. Like you're talking about saving the coral reefs, because the coral reefs save you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. I had not, because I mean I know some of the Maldives, but I didn't know its structure about being this reef ring, and now hearing that it was probably a defense against colonization.
Yeah.
That is. Have places tried though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There has been many attempts.
We had a Portuguese invasion and different invasions.
Yeah.
And many different, like we've been, there's history of people living in the Maldive Islands for like thousands of years, right? Like at least like about 4 to 6 thousand years. There's some sort of document, like artifacts or whatever that people have lived here.
Right. It's like the corals hold history.
Yeah.
Silica's nephew wants to know if there are poisonous corals.
Yeah, there are. There's the fire coral that is really painful if you put your foot in it.
You did yesterday or day before, Aya?
What?
Oh my God,
still here
Aya.
talking to us, answering all sorts of basic questions. Wow, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, you put some vinegar on it, and usually it gets better if it's something with it. But corals also have like nematocysts where you shouldn't be touching corals. It's not it can sting, and you can get rashes or itches, and if you get a coral cut, it always takes longer for it to get better.
Aya, you're also a professional surfer, right?
No, I'm not a professional surfer.
Not a professional surfer.
Professional surfer means you have to be getting paid for it.
I mean, a lot of like surfing athletes, especially if you're female, they don't get paid either.
Well, in Maldives, like there's only a handful of surfers, right? And we haven't even been like had a female women's heat in on any of the national competitions. So,
oh wow!
Is surfing
a big thing in the Maldives?
Yeah, it's quite a big thing. We have our surfers going to the island, to other countries, and getting medals and stuff things as well.
Ibu and.
But it's all men.
It's all men.
Yeah.
Is there any movement towards women in surfing?
Yeah, well, we're trying to get more girls surfing. Like there's a few groups now that do that are teaching like, children to surf. Which
There's Araru that you're part of, Aya.
we've been going around um, to the different islands and then teaching school alone to surf. Been going on for.
I like I mentioned earlier, I have a phobia for deep water, so I admire all of you for being able to conquer the seas like that, or at least not
Yeah.
get freaked out.
There's been women surfers going out with the Raluedur with the surf for teaching the surfers, teaching kids how to surf in the islands. So I think that actually we were talking about this Aya the other day, that it makes a difference that women go out there as well as men to teach.
Yeah, because then the parents are more likely to send that girls out.
Which is really different from when you were small, right?
Yeah, when I was younger, I mean, we didn't have any such programs or anything, and you just had to like get in, and also it wasn't like treated as a sport then, right? So it was kind of like not seen as something that's not really respectable, and especially if you're a girl and you're going and doing all of hanging out with all the in the guys field basically.
And is there much engagement between the surfers and the ocean conservation? Like, surely they must care, right?
Yeah, the surfers are quite usually pretty active in like activism, like a lot of the time, this affects surfers directly as well, because we have so many amazing waves, and then the waves are always, of course, off an island, and then sometimes these islands get developed as resorts. And then during the development, there's reclamation, there's seawalls being put in, and it destroys the waves. It destroys the waves. And then if it doesn't destroy the waves and it becomes a surf resort, then they privatize the waves a lot of the time. And I mean,
privatize the waves. My gosh.
Yeah, it's like there's no real law about it, but they won't allow others to come and surf them.
Wow. Yeah, I was gonna ask about that actually earlier when you're talking about like zoning. Like what's the border, building the borders between oceans in some places there's a lot of dispute over which country owns what island, or you see with say in India this dispute over where to fish, because this one area is owned by like kind of two or three different countries, and they're all fighting over the right to fish, and it gets like really intense.
Yeah, it's a really big problem. I think there's a problem that Maldives might get into as well, because that's coming up now with Diego Garcia and Mauritius and
okay.
Yeah, and well, the U.S. I don't know enough about it actually, so I shouldn't comment about it. But yeah, we do have those issues, and zoning is going to be. It's going to be for us on a more localized scale. It will be a little bit like that too, because every island has their own area, sea area around it with their own jurisdiction as well. Yeah. And then we have Maldives is 99%. Our territory is 99% ocean. So we have a lot of our we are mostly water. Right. So I think the biggest challenge will be with the areas to fish, fishermen.
Yeah, like how's the negotiations been with like the fishing industry?
Yeah, I mean, people are initially not going to be happy with not being able to fish, and places that always fishing at, or but what needs to happen is they need to be made more aware of like the long-term implications of the fishing, and see that this kind of protection is really actually effective. It brings back fish populations, and it's better in the end for fishermen and everyone.
Right.
There's there's place like Palau that have conserved a lot of their sea and have good results. Like I was just reading about it the other day.
Yeah, Palau is a really great example of that. They've as we mentioned earlier during the 1998 coral bleaching event, what they did was they just allowed it to recover instead of they didn't do anything to the area and just let it recover, and they studied it while it was recovering.
Right.
So they recovered almost back to in the last 20 years, almost back to how it was. But then, which makes them more resilient to more bleaching events that keep happening, right? So they can recover much better than we can, because Maldives is just developing, and it's just
things are literally being built on the reefs, and there's like a lot of reclamation going on, and there's like so like a place that has been left alone, to compare it with Maldives is like, in Maldives a lot of places didn't get a chance to recover.
Right. Yeah. Like this it's hard to heal when there's, I mean, they're applicable to real like humans too. Like it's hard
I was gonna
heal.
say.
Yeah, so you're just moving and moving and moving.
Yeah, exactly. Like all life, right?
When I was in Malaysia, I was part of a youth journalist program, and I was about like 17, 18. And we got to go on like a field trip / reporting trip to Mabul Island, which is off Sabah, off Borneo. And our project there was to work with coral reef, I guess the same kind of people you guys are, and their method for conserving the reefs there was to build these giant reef walls, which are mostly made of concrete, but they had like bits of, like it was covered with like bits of old coral and shells and all of that. And the idea is that they park them into the sea, and new coral will grow over that. And one thing that was like kind of spooky that happened was that, because we're by the beach and people collect shells and whatever. So I think someone just picked up a shell that they really liked. And then half the group, including myself, got really bad food poisoning. And we were all like really sick. And we were like, what's going on? And like, I think one of the locals was like, yeah, you should return what you took from the sea to the sea. And so it came time for us to build our own reef walls. Whoever it is that took the shell, like, gave back that shell. I think probably like other people put it back. And then we were all fine. So it's like,
wow.
There's something there. And it's like, yeah, like you could probably have like a slightly more scientifically cogent answer. But, we were like, yeah, we got warned about taking stuff away from the sea. Like, it looks pretty, but give it back. And it's like, okay, fine, we got the point.
Yeah.
That's great. Well,
is there anything like that in the Maldives? Like, is there any kind of like folk belief around? Like, don't disturb the corals or they will disturb you.
Yeah, I think we should start that. Yeah,
we have to make some.
I was wondering with the festival. I remember Amani posting the posters of the festival, the beautiful artworks that were made. What sort of other artworks are being made around these topics? I think Amani was also thinking about like doing some recordings or something of Under the Sea. What are some cool artworks that have been made, maybe around the festival?
Go ahead, Anya.
So like a lot of the work in Maldives is about the sea, right? So there's a lot of artists who do work to sell to the tourists. So that's like naturally from the sea. And then there's also like stuff that is made in the like stuff that could be made in Maldives that is just mass produced in Indonesia or something to be sold to the tourists as well. Yeah, I think at the festival there was Karine made this artwork about using junk and taking pictures of it and posting it on Instagram.
Like it's
Just
like
there's a
installation.
lot of like we were saying that the Maldives is was like a net for the boats, right? And right now, because it's all in the middle of the Indian Ocean, it's like a net for all the plastic junk that people throw away. So like the beaches are just littered with garbage, So there's tons and tons people are picking up. If you go and clean up, people are picking up tons and tons of garbage from the beaches every day.
Right.
So like in the resort islands, people they clean up the beaches so you can't really see it. But when you go to a village island, you can, and like uninhabited island, you can really see that.
Yeah, there seems to be a kind of a class difference happening there too.
Yeah.
With corrected that assumption, like the places where there's more money flowing in from overseas, that gets a lot more attention than a smaller village.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, waste management is one of the biggest issues that we because of the way our islands are just so scattered everywhere. It's really hard to deal with that as well.
Yeah, I think that like of course, like a lot of the big tourist resorts, like the most, like a lot of the money that comes in the country doesn't stay in the country because it's like big tourist companies and stuff who have these resorts, right?
Yeah. And
so it's like companies. like global business stuff that's happening there.
Then you also see like on the community islands where people used to just throw all rubbish was degradable before, right? So we didn't have plastics and things, and then they used to just throw it into the sea. And then we got plastic waste and things, and then people just continue throwing it into the sea, but it's not the same. Like, it doesn't have the same. So I mean, a lot of the issue is because there wasn't a way that was provided to dispose of the rubbish properly. But now that now that guest house tourism has started in the last decade on the island, the islands that have more tourists coming in, you see that they make more of an effort to keep the beaches and things clean as well. So there's that, there's some good coming out of that in that sense as well on the lower income islands as well.
Right. Like how?
Yeah, there's always like different types. Like different islands are really different from each other, right? There are some islands that are really developed with a bigger population and like roads with cars even on those islands, and other islands are more like less developed, maybe with just a few hundred people. So the different islands are really different. The way they look after the island depends on the community that's living there. It's really, it's really common, like people would just go out and sweep the roads in front of their houses, so like the roads would be really clean, and we kind of used to stuff like that. Like people looking after their environment is something that is really part of our culture, right? But you just need like ways to deal with the plastic and deal with the like different types of rubbish.
Yeah, for sure. Like as you were saying, that if you have old habits of say, well, we throw it to the sea and that's fine, like that hasn't been a problem before. But if you don't provide like an alternative that's as accessible, then people may not necessarily be inclined. Like they're not trying to destroy the sea.
Well, you don't actually have a choice, right? Like if there's no other, where do you put it?
Yeah, exactly.
There's recently been this thing happening in the island where Aya is at as well, where there's like been this crisis where people don't know what to do with their rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people do want to, I feel like people do want to do the right thing, but they don't necessarily know what the right thing is or how to make it happen.
Exactly, and people are only just learning about the downsides of plastic pollution and what it does to the environment.
Yeah.
So, the people on the islands are only just learning these things, but the good thing is a lot of the schools are now adopting no plastic policies and things, and then they go and tell their parents, and so things are looking better, but we are running out of time.
Yeah, it's like it's coming fast and hard. Although, well,
We were
not
talking
really
a little bit.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit also like games produce a lot of carbon emissions, right? And there's so I was reading an article
on
saying
a game about being on an island with supposedly no emissions because there's no factories here. But what is this game made on? How are we connecting?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so there are people talking to games companies. There's some big companies who have kind of signed up with the UN for doing something about the climate. But of course, and different companies are pledging different activities, actions.
Yeah.
I suppose.
And each year,
so there is some awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each year, some companies release reports. Like Nintendo released their report just a couple of months ago, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on their climate impacts. But yeah, I think it's even as a worker, you're forced to buy a new graphics card just to be able to work on the game.
Yeah, right. But do you think there's like rooms in games, like there's the industry side, of course, of like the creation, the physical act of making the game, which is the graphics cards and the metals and all of and the carbon that it takes up. But in terms of say like on the player end or consumer end side of things, do you see like an avenue for games to be like a way of activism and education, like we're trying to do with like good diving right now?
Yeah, definitely.
Where's role was like games or even just the arts in general, given this is Melbourne Fringe, like how then can that intersect with climate activism?
So like in Maldives, something that they need right now is a lot of monitoring of what's actually happening to the corals. So that means like going out there and looking and seeing what the condition is and what's growing where, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And Aya, maybe you can say something about that.
Well, like we need more data. Like we need data from the different like a lot of the studies that we've done that have been done are centralized around like the central atolls near the closer to the capital and closer to where the most tourism and everything is happening. So if a game or something like that could be used for like citizen science, like people could be on the different islands, could be monitoring their reefs and putting data in, or doing things with garbage collection, or I mean, I can see a lot of scope there. That would be really a cool way to bring all the islands together, and then like create some competition between islands as well. I think that would be a pretty useful way to get some conservation going.
Yeah. Right. I mean, like, you have this SETI, which I think was one of the first big citizen science projects where they just use your leftover computing processing power to figure out if there's life in outer space or something. It was something space related.
Yeah.
And people, using their computer processing power for Bitcoin, might as well put it something a little bit more useful.
True.
Yeah.
So there's like
eco credits, Amani, we were talking about.
Well, well, something, like these citizen science projects, they have to kind of give people something back for the work they're doing. I was saying, I think it has to be like there has to be a reason for doing it. That is not just the work that they're doing.
I mean, there's some people who enjoy doing work for the sake of it. Like with Animal Crossing, people just spend hours building an island, or for what purpose? Nothing in particular. It's like, yes, we're gonna work really hard to buy a house. I feel like, why do you want to play a game that's basically real life? But some people are just like into that kind of like busy work.
Yeah. Why not use it?
So there might just be people who are just into the idea of like gamifying. Like, yeah, I'm gonna find the corals, hunt them down.
Yeah, well, that is its own reward system, right?
Yeah. Like right now, we're just hunting corals and random shellfish. I just got an oyster.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely be used like that.
Yeah. Even if it's just like, oh, I collected a cute picture of another sea creature. Like I learned something new. Yay! Like there was this one game years ago where you played as like kind of like a Mars rover type, but it was on a fictional planet. And a lot of it was just basically like you go around and take photos of the wildlife or the plant in this random planet you're on.
Yeah.
And that was it. There was a kind of a mystery to it, but you could ignore the mystery if you want. Just go, I'm gonna go around this planet
and just explore it.
And just take photos, because I am a little lunar rover.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we could be like a little, like in a little sub going down in the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a game like Abzu, right? And Subnautica are like games that are basically underwater and you're just exploring.
Those are both beautiful games.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some games who like kind of pledge to make content that's about the nature and climate and stuff like that. You put a lot of stuff in the games, right, to teach people or like just to raise awareness.
Yeah. Like what we're doing right now with like learning about.
Hey, I saw that Animal Crossing has a Nature Day.
Yes, so it's an Earth Day. They've been doing an Earth Day event since for ages now. It's not just new with this thing, but yeah, they celebrate Earth Day. My favorite character in the entire game, a gardener named Leaf, shows up and he can sell you flowers. He buys your weeds off you. And he's a sweet boy. But yeah, they do celebrate Earth Day in Animal Crossing.
Cool.
That happens. Cool. Thank you so much, Aya and Amani, for coming on, talking to us about your very important work with climate change and coral reef conservation, and answering all sorts of questions about your work and what we can do around the world to ensure that these coral reefs do not just end up being a remnant in a game.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting us come on here.
You're welcome anytime. It was more like, oh yes please.
Also, it was great getting to watching the game and being part of it.
Yeah, see, that's a beautiful thing about like the way our festival works. You don't even need the game; you can just watch along and contribute your thoughts.
Yeah, and get your character.
Yes, get this morphed version of both of you at once.
I love it.
It's great.
Cool. And thank you to like your cousins who have been showing up.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Where can people find you?
Instagram, Twitter. Well, the Coral Institute has a website, www.maldivecoral.org. Well,
Okay.
Oh, it's there on the chat.
Yep.
The website.
Cool.
Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much.
Yes.
thank you so much. It was
And
fun
Have a good
chatting.
rest of your day, because it's like what, 11 a.m. like sometime in the morning for you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
11. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and good luck with the rest of the.
Lunchtime.
Yeah.
Thank you. Enjoy your
Yeah,
lunch.
have fun.
Have fun.
See you later.
Thanks, you too.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.